Hi guys, Matt here with Itasca County Habitat again. We're here at our passive house in Cohasset just to give you guys another update. So the last time we had you guys here on video, we were in the midst of doing all of our exterior framing and setting the trusses on the home here. And so as you can see, if you remember from our last video, we used 2x10 walls to frame all of the exterior walls on this project here. So kind of as an example, you can see around this window here, we've got in this space our 2x10 wall. And then what we did after that, what's kind of new for you guys to see, is that we actually completely insulated that 2x10 wall. So there's no mechanicals, there's no electrical or plumbing or anything in that space at all. And what we did after that point was we came in and we installed Intello Plus smart vapor barrier around the entire exterior wall of the entire house. And then what we have here is a 2 3/4 inch fur out strip that we brought out to add even more insulated space, and that's actually to run all of our mechanicals as well. So we'll take you around and you can see that we've got anything as far as exterior outlets and plumbing supply lines and vents and drains all actually run in this 2 3/4 inch space. That was pretty easy for us to make. 2 3/4 is basically just half of a 2x6. So we took a lot of extra 2x6 material here that we had on site, and we ripped it down in half on our table saw, and that made our horizontal furring strips that we run across and attach to our vertical wall studs behind. And then what we do from that point on is we actually insulate that space too. And so we take like an R21 fiberglass bat insulation, and we're able to just peel it in half and use half of a piece since it's half of a 2x6 wall. So a pretty simple process to be able to get a super tight insulated space that has a vapor barrier plus an added 2 3/4 inch of insulation on the inside. If you look up here, another thing that you guys didn't see last time is that we've got our ceiling vapor barrier. This is kind of similar to what we did on the walls. So before we put any of the interior walls up in this house, what we did was we ran a continuous reinforced poly vapor barrier across the ceiling. So before we had any walls in, we basically just had 2 sheets, with one seam that we kind of stretched across up this whole ceiling and attached to the trusses. And so what we did after that was we added 2 2x4 furring strips, 24 inches on center across all of the trusses, running perpendicular to the trusses to where we kind of did the same thing as the walls. So we have all of our electrical chases and boxes and everything attached to the sides of these 2x4s, so that creates kind of a continuous sealed space across our whole ceiling as well. So you have continuous vapor barrier on your walls and your ceiling. After all of that vapor barrier and furring strip goes in on the ceiling, then you can stand your interior walls up, and that's what we did in this case here. It's kind of the opposite of what you would traditionally do, where you would stand your interior walls up first and then you would run your vapor barrier and have to glue across all of your top plates of your walls and everything, and have more places for potential penetration. So if we kind of walk back over this way, we can kind of see some different areas where you've got outlets and things where they run pretty nicely on that 2 3/4 inch fur out. That works pretty nice. We can go back to one of our bathrooms here, and you can see how right here we've got our utility room, so our washer dryer closet right here. Our hookups, our drains, and our vents and everything run nice in this 2 3/4 inch fur out. So a little bit of extra planning that's you have to account for when doing that, but it seems to be working out pretty nice here. See here, with the air exchange system / air source heat pump that we have for this house to heat it, we actually run all of the ductwork on the inside of the space. So here's a good well-lit example in here where we've got one of our supplies for our air handling system, and it actually runs on this furred down kind of softened wall that'll get sheetrock on the bottom of this. So all of our ductwork actually stays below the attic space. So that makes for fewer penetrations in the attic, and just allows the system to work a little bit better being on the insulated side of the wall. So that's another added benefit to this. Makes for a little bit more work, but it should make for a pretty efficient product in the end. And to kind of go off from the efficiency, we actually had what they call a midpoint blower door test done on this house just last week, where they put kind of a negative air pressure on the home to see how efficient it is, see where we have potential air gaps and leaks. And that test came back pretty good. So we came back with a test of 1.5 ACH, so that's air changes per hour. And typically what you need if you're building to code, like in Grand Rapids, you would need 3.0 or less. So to know that we're at 1.5 before we even have doors and attic access, or even any foam or anything around our windows, to know that it's that tight already is pretty encouraging, to know that it's that efficient. And we expect to see that number drop to about 1 or so ACH after we get the place insulated a little bit better, and we get drywall and everything up, and we get our doors all foamed in and everything. So, putting us at about that 1 ACH level is, about 2 or 3 times better of what you need to build the code. So that's very efficient, and it should work pretty well with our air exchange heat pump system that we've got as the kind of primary heat and cooling source for the house. So kind of the next stage of this house is kind of checking over and making sure our furred out insulation looks good, that none of it's falling out, that we keep it kind of tight in place before our insulation goes up, or our drywall goes up. And then we're kind of it's kind of business as usual as far as flooring and paint and trimming out the house, and everything else kind of goes together as kind of a traditional home build process. So that's our next stage on this house, and we'll keep you updated for our next step, once we get to that point. And thanks for joining us.